everyone, and welcome to the TDWI webinar program. I'm Andrew Miller, and I'll be your moderator. For today's program, we're going to talk about the Unified Data Platform on AWS, tap into data and success, and our sponsor today is Impetus. For our presentations today, we'll hear first from Markham Reed with TDWI, and after Markham speaks, we'll be joined by Deepak Yoshi with Impetus and David Potes with AWS for a panel discussion. Before I turn the time over to our speakers, please allow me to go over a few basics. Today's webinar will be about an hour long, and at the end of the presentations, our speakers will host a question and answer period. If at any time during these presentations you'd like to submit a question, just use the Ask a Question area on your screen to type in your question. If you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, click on the Help area located below the slide window, and you'll receive technical assistance. If you'd like to discuss this webinar on Twitter with fellow attendees, just include the hashtag TDWI in your tweets. And if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, use the click here for a PDF line there in the left middle of your console. In addition, we are recording today's events, and we'll be emailing you a link to an archived version so you can view the presentation again later if you choose, or if you'd like to share it with a colleague. Again, today we're going to be discussing the Unified Data Platform on AWS, and our first speaker is Markham Reed, Director of Research for Data Management at TDWI. At TDWI, he focuses on data management, data governance, data literacy, data science, and analytics and machine learning. Before joining TDWI, Dr. Reed was an Associate Professor of Data and Analytics at the School of Business at Henderson State University and part of the research faculty for the Institute of Chief Data Officers. He has also taught at Southeast University Nanjing and was a research scholar at Southern Illinois University. He holds a PhD in economics from Southern Illinois University Carbondale. And with that, Markham, welcome, and I'll hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Andrew. It's always great to be here. Welcome, everyone, and I hope we have a good discussion today. So let me go on and just kind of start off talking about unified data platforms a little bit. So most enterprises have these large amounts of data again, they're from multiple sources, and they struggle to unlock meaningful insights. Nevertheless, though, these complexities of these underlying architectures and the service integration of setting up a data platform usually discourage organizations from developing said unified platform. Now, a unified platform can solve this problem. A platform-centric approach manages the end-to-end data platform lifecycle. Additionally, accelerates and these accelerators and enablers are going to allow for this more rapid development of purpose-built data platforms. Now, today we're going to discuss how organizations can overcome common data and cloud challenges and to take advantage of a unified and modern data platform. So there is no shortage of data being created. Inefficient organizational structures and architectural decisions contribute to some gaps that companies have between aggregating data and making it work for them. Now, organizations want to make use of the cloud to modernize their data analytics systems, but that alone does not solve the underlying issues around siloed data sources or these brittle processing pipelines that they construct ad hoc. Now, strategic decisions around data ownership and technical decisions about storage mechanisms must be made in a holistic way in order to make a data platform more successful for your organization. Now, it is complicated for organizations to present their business users with relevant, actionable, and timely data. Analysts still struggle with outdated data. Now, few companies feel that they are in realizing this tangible value from their data, and there are some issues such as data freshness and the difficulty in integrating a bunch of separated or disparate and legacy systems across silos. Now, organizations are migrating to the cloud, but that does not solve the real problem in older legacy systems that might have this vertically structured that meet the needs of a single business unit. Now, data work is rarely done by a single individual. There are many data-related users in an organization who play an important role in the data lifecycle. Now, each has a different perspective on data governance, freshness, discoverability, metadata, and processing times, and the queryability of that data. Now, businesses are maintaining hundreds of applications across their organization, with even some firms maintaining thousands of applications. Now, with this profusion of multiple applications, organizations struggle to manage inconsistent data, costly maintenance, and complicated infrastructure, and also those mandatory regulation changes that, again, plague the industry right now. Most IT professionals and organizations spend their energy on maintaining multiple technologies rather than implementing unique business logic and business solutions. Organizations are looking for that business logic, and they're also looking for ways to transform and improve collaboration between the business functions across all the geographies to enhance business productivity and serve the evolving needs of business functions. Now, one of the major challenges for IT functions is, again, to manage all these different code bases out there, the different databases and cloud infrastructures. And this is across all of the enterprise applications. And making this all done according to the skill sets of the people that are hired and managing all those different applications. In all, leaders recognize the need to consolidate the technology landscape and to start using a unified platform for catering to functional needs across the business divisions. Again, this is IT, procurement, sales, finance, legal services, all across the board. Now, organizations are interested in consolidating, okay? Now, they're not just interested in consolidating the underlying technology platform for all their business applications, but also they're looking for platform consolidation that is going to play some key role in improving the application and data security. Now, this is going to be followed by a need for instant access to data and to make those real-time decisions and building up a simplified technology architecture. And again, this is going to be a lot easier to maintain and update. However, though, our organizations are struggling to consolidate these multiple complicated technological architectures. For a unified platform implementation, though, IT needs to look for the architectural approach to the concept that brings the best of breed applications to a single enterprise. And this enterprise needs to be, this platform needs to be enterprise-wide. This application needs to be enterprise-wide. Now, it is about creating a assembly or an ensemble of applications. And again, this can be existing legacy systems. It can be new apps that are available to market or even custom builds. And again, they want that on a single platform to deliver it in a variety of capabilities. Again, maybe for content management, for business intelligence, or for those operational applications, again, that are going to keep changing based on business requirements. And again, this is all, what is this always for? This is to help us make better business decisions. So a unified data platform, what are these benefits? Well, it enables a seamless collaboration between enterprise systems to unlock that productivity for the business units in the enterprise. Now, it can provide improved experience, okay? And so this is delivering a similar user interface across apps. Then we can also talk about custom development. And again, an IT system can use a unified platform's API libraries to integrate with all of the external systems. A workflow design is again going to be using a flexible workflow engine in environments that can automate that work process and documentation routing. Centralized knowledge. Now, stakeholders and decision makers can build a centralized and secure repository to store all of their documents on this unified platform. And business users share documents in that central repository between each other to help increase those workflows. Now, we can also look at analytics. Now, all business functions can create their own unique dashboards or create these real-time reports all throughout the system. Now, finally, enterprise integration. A unified platform enables the future of work by providing AI ML functions to help reduce the manual labor and enhance productivity. Now, let's kind of do a quick wrap-up of this before we head into our panel discussion. And this is, more businesses have a ton of data pouring in from a variety of sources. Now they need meaningful insights. Now, to become a truly data-driven organization, the first step is to design and implement a data platform that meets their technical needs, as well as their business needs. Now, whether you want to empower your team to own, publish, and share their data across the organization, or if you want to create a streamlined store of raw process data for easy discovery, then there's definitely going to be some solution that's going to meet your needs and assist your company in the future. I'm going to throw it back to Andrew to introduce our speakers for today. Andrew?
Thank you very much, Markham. Great presentation. Before I introduce our next speaker, just a quick reminder to our audience, if you do have a question, please enter it at any time in the Ask a Question window. We will be answering audience questions in the final portion of this program. Our next speaker today is Deepak Joshi, Senior Technical Architect for Cloud and Data Engineering with Impetus. As Senior Solution Architect, Deepak helps customers drive technology plans that align with their digital transformation goals. He has extensive experience in helping enterprises streamline their big data and cloud architecture modernization initiatives at scale. We are also joined today by David Potes, Senior Manager, Solutions Architect for Data and Analytics with AWS. He provides technical guidance, design advice, and thought leadership to some of the most successful AWS partners on the planet. His deepest expertise spans big data security, storage, and SaaS business applications. Over the last 18 years, he has brought an intense customer focus to challenging and deeply technical roles in multiple industries. He holds both a world record and has a number of patents. Please welcome Deepak and David. And with that, Markham, I will hand it back to you for the panel discussion.
Thank you. Welcome, Deepak. Welcome, David. I'm glad you guys are here with us today. Let's kind of start out with just a very basic question, okay? And I'm going to kind of open this up to both of you. But first, maybe we'll start off with David, okay? So in today's data-driven world, do you think enterprises have been able to actually derive real business value from their data?
Yeah, it's a great question, and thank you for the intro. Really appreciate it. We hear this a lot, and one thing that I want to be conscious of is deriving value from data is not a binary question. It's not a yes or no question. It's something that you approach kind of nirvana over time. And we actually did some research on this with a research partner. And what we saw is in the research data, 68% of organizations are reporting that they're still unable to realize all of the value that they want from their data. And only 28% of the respondents had a data strategy in place. So if you're struggling with this topic, you're not alone. And that's where AWS and AWS partners and our tools and services all work together to solve these challenges. But there's a reason to go for it. Also in a companion study, we found that companies with an effective data strategy in place saw a $65 million increase in net income on average and got a 415% ROI over their data projects in a 5-year time frame. And as a bonus, 48% of these companies reduced their cost of operation. So we can both grow the top line as well as the bottom line, which, if we can all do that at our companies, it's a great way to get promoted or be offered the CEO slot or the CIO slot. So there's definitely a lot of value here. And, the topic is broad, but the solutions are actually fairly straightforward. And we'll talk about that a little later in this chat.
That's fantastic. Those are some great statistics to throw out there. Thank you. So, Deepak, what do you believe about today's data-driven world? Do you have any ideas on, again, how real business value is being created with data?
Hey, hi. So, yes, definitely. Today it's data world, and there's a lot of information in the data, and you can pull data insights. And as David said, you can decrease your operational cost. You can find new avenues for revenue increases, and all these insights can be, pulled out from the data. So yes, definitely.
That's great. So I'm gonna use that as a bit of a segue here, Deepak. And again, that's what we're all here for, is a cloud-based unified data platform, right? So can a cloud-based data platform actually help democratize data across an enterprise? And again, could you maybe also define what that cloud data platform is, and potentially how is it different from maybe a traditional data lake?
Yeah, sure. So yes, cloud data platform is definitely helpful for data democratization. And why cloud-based platform? Because cloud-based data platform is accessible from anywhere, and data is available. It's replicated in multiple regions, and now the cloud vendors are supporting all the security norms and compliances, and data is safe there. If your data increases or the processing, the load increases, it's scalable. So, and on top of it, the services are the native services and the cloud storage services and compute services are managed by cloud vendors. So you have a lesser downtime and more support. So definitely cloud-based unified data platform is helpful. Second thing is to define a cloud platform. So basically cloud platform provides you different types of storages and different types of computes and different types of tools to migrate your data from various data sources from on-prem to cloud, and it supports various security compliances, and it also provides you tools to control the access of your data, to keep your data safe, privacy of data, and also provides tools to view the data and process the data and get the insights. So that's I would have to say about the cloud data platform. And the third thing that how this cloud data platform is different from the traditional data lakes. So in traditional data lakes, what we have seen is the data is managed very poorly, and the data is not organized. People struggle to find right data. Even if they are able to find the data, they do not know the freshness or the staleness of the data. The right source of truth is not always possible to know. The origination of data, the lineage of data is not so well organized. But when you build the modern data warehouses or data lakes or data mesh on cloud, then you take care of all these things. Your data is safe. Your data is discoverable. You have data catalogs. You have data lineage. There are various types of options on cloud which are available, not so available on data lake, and moreover, the scalability. It's so hard to scale on-prem in the traditional data lakes, but in cloud, it's really easy and helpful.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you. So this is starting to create this kind of idea in my mind about where enterprises are starting to face some of these new hurdles and challenges. So maybe, David, could you maybe talk to us about what challenges you've seen people face when they're democratizing their data in particular?
Yeah, and I've been doing this for a long time, so this comes up a lot. And I'm technical by nature, so the kind of first step that I would always kind of mentally go to is around tools, but it's not just about tools. And there's kind of an old adage in IT, when we called it IT, that every project really boils down to people, process, and technology, right? And we've got a great story on the technology. I'll definitely be talking about kind of particular services and all the cool stuff that you can do in AWS. But if you don't address those kind of other two corners of the triangle, you're going to struggle. Like there's just no way around it. So if you think about the people thing in particular, is very challenging. So as we start to think about democratized data, we're taking the reins out of the IT department. In the US alone, there are about 2 million people that have analyst in their title somewhere. All of those people want access to data. They want it now. They want it to be cleaned. They want to be able to find it, and too often, I would say in years past, like a very kind of tools-focused approach and kind of moving forward from the data warehouse or the operational data store. And this was the era of reports, right? So the endpoint of everything was a canned report. Like you may have used Crystal reports back in the day. I did. And that's just not the world that we live in right now. If you work backwards from what companies want or should want, frankly, is essentially that they're looking to turn data into insights, right? And if we land something in a canned report that somebody requested 5 years ago, that may or may not contain insights. So the modern approach is really about turning that around and thinking about the consumer or the consumption orientation of the platform. That's why when I think about platforms and unified data platforms, I categorize those as data consumption platforms. And if we work backwards from that notion, a lot of the efforts around cleaning data, around democratizing data, start to make a lot of sense. So give people the tools so that they can actually get the insights that they need. In QuickSight, our business intelligence tool is actually a really strong tool to do this. I said I wouldn't talk about tools yet, but I can't help myself. As you kind of orient around that consumption piece, one of the biggest things that comes to the fore is data discovery. Anybody here in this webinar that works at a big company, you may know of a small percentage of data sets that you can use, but you know that they're out there, right? And I think that being vocally self-critical too, I think in past years, like we didn't spend enough time on data discovery. Like it was very much oriented around take data from something, transform it into something else, dump it into a report, and then the data engineers are done. It does not work like that anymore, especially when you think about all the companies, nearly 100% of them, that are looking to do some level of prediction, inference, machine learning, and or AI processes on that data. There's a couple of more steps at the end. In what AWS does a great job of is giving customers all of the tools that they need to be able to do this. But when you start to think about hundreds of services, dozens of analytics tools, thousands of features, right? The permutations there rapidly become a number that is hard to fit on a page. So we find a lot that customers are looking for partners to help guide them. And one of the things that I love about working with Impetus is that they have a unified platform. That becomes the data consumption platform. And for customers that are looking to buy versus build, which is a significant number, thinking from a platform orientation is really like hitting the easy button, frankly. I see companies move faster when they kind of take this approach. Not to say that you can't roll your own, especially some of the larger companies like Netflix. They actually they do a great job of bringing in telemetry data and actually surface it in reports in seconds, dropping it on a dashboard in less than a minute. This is what you can do as you have, a consumption platform, as you are focusing on democratizing data to the people that can actually make decisions. And ultimately, it makes your company more agile, and especially, when there's macroeconomic winds blowing in the wrong direction, like you want to be agile. You want to have those insights. And you didn't ask, but what I'm seeing definitely in the market is no pause on data projects. I see customers rethinking other types of projects, but when it comes to data, it is their most valuable resource. And as a cloud provider, AWS, and I take this personally too, like we want to be the best place for data. And I think we've got a good story there, which we will talk about later in this.
That's absolutely fantastic. And again, it's what is on everyone's minds right now.
Yep.
And I really get that. I kind of laughed at it a little bit as you were talking about wanting to talk about the tools and stuff like that. It just, I understand that natural itch you have to say, look at this cool stuff that's going on right now. So we talked a little bit more kind of in broad conceptual terms right now. So let's kind of bring it down to some real world stuff. So Deepak, can you kind of share some real world examples of an enterprise in which their cloud data platform journey was conceptualized? And then what were their business drivers? What were their biggest challenges that they were facing?
Yeah, sure. This is a very interesting question. And, there was an interesting use case in one of our airline customers in airline industry, United Airlines. So pre-COVID, they were doing very good business, and they were making like 40+ billion revenue, and but they were spending like close to $2 billion per year on their aircraft maintenance, and they wanted to bring down cost. A 5%, 2 billion. Imagine even 5% reduction is a big amount for them, and they can add that money for various other purposes. So, so they have these, the Aviation Authority (FAA) has different norms for aircraft, and the Boeing, Airbus, they comes with their different guidelines for aircraft maintenance. And if you go by the book, you would spend all the revenue in aircraft maintenance. So. So basically, they wanted to bring down, and they wanted to understand that how they are spending, because they had no clue. They knew that they're spending a lot, but they did not have the whole insight because the data was not unified. So, we started this use case with various, participants from various departments. Then we started understanding that, how to start. So starting from the regulations and policies and the manuals, service manuals, guidelines, and recommended schedules and all. So we started gathering data that, okay, how the maintenance should be done. And then we came to how maintenance is being done. So United have their own hubs where they do this maintenance internally. And they send the aircraft for external maintenance also, external vendors also. And so they have like daily checks, monthly checks, weekly checks, and they have aircraft overhauling in every 5-6 years. So they were spending a lot of money. So we started capturing this data, and started capturing data from the billings and invoices, quotations from internal, external vendors. Started capturing data from the inspections happening on daily basis, the inspection logs and journals and all that data, and so this all data was captured, and also it's interesting, because of maintenance errors, the flights are also delayed or cancelled. So that also has an impact on the customer satisfaction and also the revenue. So all this data was collected and put in the unified platform, and some of them were manual, some of them digitized, with various different data formats. And that was a very good case where we combined all the data, bring to a common format, and provided to data analysts and researchers. So they started exploring the data, joining the data, and then they were we built a dashboard on top of it that how's the spending, so understand the spending. And then we introduced ML models where attribution runs, to understand that what will happen if I tweak this, what will happen if I tweak that, to get the predictions. So the idea was, that the maintenance cost should come down, but the safety shouldn't be compromised, right? So to keep a balance between them, this use case was implemented, and it went to production, and the data was compiled, collected, and brought into cloud, and and finally there were dashboards, and there were recommendations from the research team that, okay, this is how, do this, tweak this, and then you'll see some cost reductions. So this was a very interesting use case. I think there were many challenges also there, to collect data in different formats, and to, even asking for data availability. Many people not even be able to share data, so that personal aspects and those cultural aspects were also involved. But overall, it was a very useful use case, and exemplary, for unified data platform.
That's fantastic. And again, this gives us a little bit more in depth into seeing how the aviation industry is dealing with these challenges and starting to bring in those unified platforms. So let's kind of expand it out a little bit more, and maybe let me direct this over towards David. And have you seen these challenges in other industries out there? Is it something that's very prolific?
Oh yeah, this is a really common pain point. And to kind of give it some framing, so first of all industries are different. They all have different challenges, but we can kind of frame the approach around, and you'll see this on our website too. We think about kind of three big meta steps in any one of these projects. So first is to modernize, right? The maintenance of old systems is costly. Often it may be difficult to find talent for legacy systems, and that leads to a lack of modernization can lead to siloed or locked away data. Unify is the second step, so bringing all of the data together so that you can have a common catalog so people can discover data, so that you can start to find relationships between disparate data sets, right? So like Deepak said, maintenance systems don't talk to the financial systems. It's a big problem, right? So if we kind of get it all together, and of course, AWS has a great story around S3 as storage, but we have, multiple storage options depending on how fast, how durable, and how costly you want those storage options to be. And if you get those two right, the kind of next framing is around innovation. So, if you're being pushed to develop, an ML practice, if you're being pushed to lower the cost of ownership of these big expensive machines like airplanes, if you're being asked to make the business more efficient, that's where innovation can come in, right? But if you haven't unified the data and if you haven't modernized your systems, it's going to be a tough job. I've been there. It's very challenging. And then as we kind of double click into industries, industries often have kind of singular risks that they have to address, but we can actually bucket those as well. So you have regulatory risk, which tends to hit the telcos, financial services, healthcare and life sciences. There's a lot of compliance regulations in those spaces, whether that's GXP, whether that's SEC rules in the US, but essentially a regulatory risk is almost a binary risk, right? If you do it wrong, you're out of compliance. There are penalties. Sometimes those penalties are very stiff. The other area that I look at is around failure risk. So many industries are dependent on large, expensive machines, whether that's airplanes, whether that's machine tools on the shop floor, whether that's that oil platform in the Gulf of Mexico or the North Sea, and it's incredibly costly for these machines to be down. A factory machine tool can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars per hour. So it's very important in those types of industries to make sure that you're doing the right maintenance, you're doing the right preventative maintenance, but also not too much, right? Because that also costs money. That also may take a machine down and become very costly. And then, the other kind of bucket of risk is loss of customer, whether that's through a loss of trust through a security issue, whether that is failure to comply with things like California Privacy Act or GDPR or the alphabet soup of customer data regulations that are out there all across the world. Frankly, I cannot think of any country that does not have some regulation around that. But even more important, there's an old Danish saying that trust comes in on foot and it leaves on a horse, right? It's much harder to build trust. It is very easy to lose trust, and if you don't have kind of your house in order, you can definitely see some challenges there. But again, the companies in their industries that do have a unified data strategy, that are data driven, continue to outperform those that don't. If you look at, whether that's, Netflix, whether that is the NFL, American Football League, whether that is NASDAQ, they all have massive data challenges and they've solved them. So I'm here to tell you that if you're smaller than, if your data is smaller than one of these companies or Blizzard or Comcast, you can solve your problems too. The key is really understanding your unique challenges, deciding whether you want to build, buy, or you need support from a services partner like Impetus, and then go through those stages in your plan around modernize, unify, and get to innovate. And I see this across every industry. There are companies that are doing it right now. There are companies that are in process, and there are companies that are struggling to get this done. Everybody has kind of a story there, but I'm here to tell you that the promised land is available, and you are capable of it. But there's lots of help out there, and AWS will be here to innovate around services. For those that will be in Las Vegas this year, I'm expecting all kinds of new announcements at AWS reInvent. So if it doesn't exist yet, keep an eye peeled. We continue to innovate.
I think we all look forward to that. So
I do.
Yeah. So again, these are fantastic challenges and all of this stuff, and we see that there's definitely a need for this type of help out there. So Deepak, I know that you guys are trying to meet these challenges kind of head on and really fight through them. So what brought you guys to the table with AWS, and what's going on there? Again, I mean, that's I'm interested. That's what brought me here today. So what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, of course, AWS is the market leader, in cloud service providers. They have a number of services for almost everything, and they are very common among our customer base. So many customers are using banks or airlines or mortgage companies or insurance. So they are very obvious choice, natural choice. And of course, we know about the technical expertise and the strong support which we get from AWS. And I mean, that's the primary reason, I would say. It's very, it's always very helpful and easy to, get support from them. And that's, I would say, that's the preference.
And I can add to that a little bit too. Sorry to jump in, but what AWS brings to the table, obviously, or hopefully it's obvious that we have a ton of services, we have a ton of features, but there's also a cultural reason why partners tend to want to work with AWS, and it's not just size and scope. It is our customer obsession. The company is famously customer obsessed, and I can tell you from the inside, having been here for 7.7 years now, that is the real deal. 90% of our roadmap comes from customer requests. Our product managers are keenly interested in what customers are saying, what they want to be able to do, and that actually drives the feature set. We find that birds of a feather kind of flock together. So customer-obsessed partners like Impetus, it's really a great match. We listen. We want to hear your pain points. Like, we want to find them and try to solve them. Like, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. That's why I'm excited to do this work, because we can solve real challenges. And I can tell you that the partnership between Impetus and AWS is very strong. The goal is to make sure that the customer experience is both rewarding, delightful, but also seamless. Like, you shouldn't be in a situation where your services vendor is not working well with your cloud services provider. I don't get up on a webinar with just anybody. So, definitely stamp of approval with Impetus. I really enjoy working with them. Very deep talent pool, and they really kind of share that same customer orientation.
I like this. I'm actually gonna kind of piggyback on what you're talking about, David. And can you maybe elaborate more on what mistakes or pitfalls that need to be avoided when people are embarking on utilizing AWS as their platform?
Yeah, and I'm going to start with kind of engineers' answer. It depends, right? Every kind of system, infrastructure, culture is a little bit different, but there are some commonalities that I've seen kind of over time. The first one is really it's important to have a clear understanding, especially around data governance, like where you need to use AWS services, where you need to use policies and procedures, and how you need to kind of train your people. So that's number one, because a unified governance strategy doesn't operate on tools alone, doesn't operate on people alone, but you really need to bring that together. Number two, and this is not uncommon in legacy system migrations, whether it's analytics systems, whether it's database systems, is that you have people that have invested their blood, sweat, and tears in the old tools. And the people part of this is really important. So have a training plan, make sure that people are comfortable that they're going to move along with the new systems, because people have lives, they have jobs, like they want to protect kind of what they have. But if you enlighten them on what is possible, you can actually get buy-in. And often, in the most successful projects, the people working on the legacy systems, moving to the new systems, they're the loudest proponents. If you can kind of get to that point, you can really make a difference. Obviously, I'm completely biased, but get that stuff off premises. Get out of the lock-in to hardware refresh cycles that maybe you don't really want to do, but you're kind of forced to do. You have the opportunity to consider what we would call managed services. So if you're running your own database, you can move that to RDS and have AWS experts run it for you. You still have plenty of knobs and levers to be able to adjust it, but it takes away some of that undifferentiated heavy lifting. Same thing for any kind of analytics system. I always guide customers to think about the managed services first. Like, can you abstract away from the stuff that does not add value to your business or your bottom line? If so, you should probably do it. 3, not every system is going to move. So we actually have tools and services to allow you to access data, whether that's on a mainframe with tools like AppSync 2.0, whether that is a partner system. So you may have second-party data with a payroll provider. Like, you can't force them to move either. So you're going to have to definitely figure out how to connect to that. And then we give you the ability additionally to start thinking about data enrichment through third-party data sources. So one of our better kept secrets is Amazon Data Exchange that allows you to programmatically discover and subscribe to third-party data, for example, like Dun & Bradstreet data. It really allows you to enrich the data that you already have without having to try to collect it. And then, fourth of, I think this is a 4, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, like have a plan for compliance and regulation from the beginning, not at the end. It's not an adjunct, it's not a bolt-on, it has to be weaved directly into your processes day in and day out, and you should always be thinking about how can we do it better, how can we do it more efficient. And 5th, don't neglect the presentation layer. I see a lot of customers that build these brand spanking new systems, and they're still going with a legacy visual analytics tool. Again, super biased. I love QuickSight. I think it's a fantastic tool, incredibly cost effective because you only pay for what you use, so there's no sense of perpetual licensing and those painful yearly license renewals. But also the feature set is growing like crazy. With the cloud service, we can move a lot faster in terms of deploying features. Again, not to harp on the reInvent thing, but like definitely stay tuned at reInvent. But with that powerful presentation layer and the ability for those 2 million analysts that I talked about earlier to slice and dice the data in ways that Excel can't do, incredibly important, right? Because it's turn data into insights. It's not just turn data, right? So having that kind of crisp and functional presentation layer is absolutely critical. And for customers that are struggling on where to start, how to move forward, again, you don't have to go it alone. There are plenty of AWS partners that would be happy to help you from planning to implementation to migration to adoption and enablement. And Impetus is a great example. If you're outside the US, don't worry, we have partners all across the globe, many of them with very deep experience in industries, in geographies, and working with specific customers. So we want you to be successful. We want you as customers to get to the next step, not just from kind of a selfish, like we sell more services standpoint, but, ultimately, like, it will make the world a better place. It will make your company a better place to work. And, oh yeah, the company will probably make more money.
It's fantastic. Let's move on over to our question and answer session from the audience. And I'd like to remind everyone to really get in your questions right now. It's not every day that you guys can just interact directly with people such as Deepak and David here, okay? So you need to ask those questions that are just burning deep inside about all of these systems. And even if you feel like it's off the wall, ask it so that we can really get to know what you guys want and what you guys need, okay? So let me go on and start off with one of the first questions in here. And this one, let's put this over to Deepak real quick, okay? So, you guys have been, and Impetus has talked about this holistic type of platform-centric framework, okay? So does that help create foundations for enterprises? How does that help people out?
Yes, definitely, So this holistic platform-centric approach, it's all about having entire end-to-end solution, right from the data coming in and right till the end with the data is consumed and the insights and the decision is made. So the whole end-to-end approach, that is the holistic platform-centric approach. And it also accounts the factors like governance or the access control, the security of data, the maintenance of the platform, and the cost efficiency. So basically, it is to build a single source of truth, ensuring the data quality and the various data aspects. So here we think data as a product and data as a service, where these instead of data living in silos, data is combined and projected as a product. Then you can also have models and model as a service, where the most commonly used models can be made available as a service, which can be used by the platform users. And the operational efficiency of the platform definitely helps in ensuring the availability of the platform and automatic failover and other things, so that the platform is always available. So that is the one aspect of holistic approach. The second is what we have seen. There are two kinds of mainly use cases where we have seen that the data is produced within cloud, and the data is directly injected or placed into the unified data platform, or the data sources are not within cloud and they are scattered all over the places. Like some of them are on-prem, some of them are on SaaS-based applications like Salesforce or hybrid solutions. So here Impetus comes in. It brings in a unique set of solutions for automated data migration and data pipelining. And then it is backed by the cloud and data engineering, which has immense experience in implementing that and helping the customers. So this significantly, it reduces the time to market, and also it helps to bring a platform which is self-service, self-governed. So these are the I would say the holistic approach.
And if I can just add to that real quick,
Sure.
also, if we kind of double click down into layers, like functionally, what I see most companies do is, once you start treating data as a product, you can develop multiple data products, right? So to Uday's point, AML needs a lot of raw data for training, right? And often what you'll see is tiers. So you may see a raw data tier, you may see a silver tier, you may see a gold tier that's extremely curated for regulatory reporting, all addressable and much simpler inside a platform. And we see this pretty consistently with customers, as long as they have kind of the right tools and processes around model ops. You can absolutely accelerate your AI/ML projects, and even better is that you can get more of them into production. Like one of the big pain points of ML over the last couple of years is what I would call science projects. They look cool, they don't change the bottom line, right? But with a unified data platform and a strong model ops process, that you can get more into production and frankly move faster than your competitors.
That's fantastic. And actually I'm actually going to hop in on that again, because we have a question from the audience that is asking something very similar to that. They happen to be from the banking industry, so kind of keep that in mind when you're answering this, okay? And this is going to be to both of you. I'd like to hear from both of you on this. So given this idea of a unified data platform, okay, there's a bunch of different use cases, right? Now you have data for AI/ML, okay, but that is very different from a lot of data for regulatory reporting. Okay, so some it needs raw data, some you don't want to miss those signals, right? So how does a unified data platform handle the data governance type issues, and how does it handle both of these types of data?
Yeah, and I'll go first, and then I'll toss it over to Deepak. So don't forget about data discovery, right? One of the biggest things to think about is the kind of beyond, like, is data clean? Is data high quality? Is data trusted? A unified data platform can help you answer those questions. There are no perfect answers. I wish I could say that was the fact. But having, like I mentioned, kind of these multiple tiers around data, give your data consumers the access to the data that they need, right? It's kind of the reverse of least privilege in ML. ML engineers need as much data as they can get their hands on, right? And that's where your raw data tier is potentially useful, but most companies are running ML off of the next tier, which is often called silver. So basically we've done some basic checks. The data has reasonable quality, because the one way to ruin an ML model, it's the oldest law in IT, right? Garbage in, garbage out. And given some of the challenges around kind of transparency in AI models, like, you may not be able to detect it easily either. So, typically don't want you to land on the raw data, but I do want you at a tier before it's kind of over curated. Like, sometimes curation can cut out some of the nuance that AI models need to actually be effective. And if you want to think about it, the mental model that I have is that there's really kind of three types of operations that you do on data. You have historical data, traditionally the province of the data warehouse. So what happened last month, what happened last year. You have real-time data, right? This may be click tracking, this may be machine telemetry, but it tells me what's happening right now, so I can make quick decisions. And then you have predictive data, right? Essentially, ML is trying to do a prediction, whether the prediction is that a picture of a dog? Will I hit my financial metrics next year? But ultimately, inference does equal prediction, right? So if you think about it from those three aspects, it really clarifies the notion that having this unified data platform enables all three. And it helps you do it faster, cheaper, and frankly better.
Yeah, and I think, David, you covered it perfectly. You haven't left many points for me. So this unified data platform, the idea is that to get data in, various formats and make sure that when you deliver the data to the consumers, the quality is, the data has the right quality. And also, the metadata, which tells about the data. For example, does that data have PII, NPI, PHI? Does that, how to discover the data, the right tools for data catalogs and data lineage, and then the right tools for data access, so that, data is in right hands and in right format, and it's useful.
All right, that's great. So this is okay. So we talked about this in this type of sense. Now, there's something that I'm wanting to dig into just a little bit more with this, and you guys got me thinking about this. And this, and again, I'm going to throw this out to both of you again. This is a nice question for this. Can you kind of share some more industry use cases for this AI ML where organizations have been able to unlock the ability based on these data platforms?
Yeah, and I'll throw this one to Deepak this time so I don't steal his thunder.
All right. Thanks, David. So, yeah, definitely we have, we have been serving and helping so many organizations. And okay, so there are like digital financial services company which basically we using the ML and the machine learning and AI tools, models. They were able to fast track the customer applications, the reviewal process for the, quick loan approvals. So before that, the review process was really slow, but because you have insights and you are using machine learning, you have right models in place. So this review process gets the right facts and it's very quick to approve or disapprove. So that's one thing which was very effective, and they were very, that actually helped to in their business. Second is about the bank. So bank was, they always want to maintain a good customer relationship. And with the right AI and ML models in place, so they were able to transform the customer relationship by using the customer surveys or grievances and feedbacks and all those things. And also that bank used the AI models for threat detection, the right use of the credit cards or debit cards or things. So for the banks, ML was useful in these two ways. There was another company which is a internet service provider, and they used ML to cross-sell and upsell their products to identify that which products can be sold to which customers, where they can be, or which portfolios are lacking and where they can do the cross-sell. And also they were able to help their salespeople, their sales force, to focus on the right leads where they can identify using the ML models like Markov chain and all, that what are the right leads which have the higher probability of conversion, so they can spend more time on those profitable or convertible leads and to make more positive cases. And third, the example which I already shared about the United Airlines, where AI and ML was used very effectively to understand their maintenance spending and ways to reduce their spending on by tuning their maintenance schedules.
Thanks for that, Deepak. And we've got about 90 seconds left, so I'm going to blast through some of the ones that I'm seeing. We've got about 172 distinct use cases that we're tracking right now, and some of them are going to be really like straightforward, cross-sell, upsell. We see a lot of activity around identifying fraud, content moderation. Companies are using ML to better serve their customers in an omni-channel environment, to personalize things, use of chatbots. I would say one use case that often people don't think about is data extraction from physical documents, what we call intelligent document processing. That's a real hotspot that we see. Media analysis, content discovery, AI metadata is very hot as well. But basically, the way to frame it is, if you have a problem that has multi-dimensional data that you can never analyze in Excel or even a visual analysis tool, it's probably a good use case for ML, right? So if there's 20 different data points that you're trying to analyze in concert, think about machine learning as an approach to that. And would love to chat more in the future. I'll be at reInvent if you guys can find me. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. This was really fun, and appreciate the attention.
Thank you, guys. I'll send it back to Andrew for some final comments.
Yeah, thank you so much, Markham. Really, really fantastic discussion between all of you. Thank you also to Deepak and David for coming on to this webinar and sharing your thoughts. This does bring us to the end of our time, so please allow me to thank our sponsor once more, Impetus, for sponsoring today's webinar. And remember that we did record today's webinar, and we'll be emailing you a link to an archived version of the presentation, which you can feel free to share with colleagues. And don't forget, if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, please use the click here for a PDF line. Lastly, I'd like to remind you that TDWI offers a wealth of information, including the latest research, reports, and webinars about BI, data warehousing, and a host of related topics. So please tap into that expertise at tdwi.org. And of course, from all of us here today, let me say thank you very much for attending. This does conclude today's event.